So let us begin with our prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya Ki Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome everyone to the Sunday morning session on Science of Self-Realization. We have been discussing from this book, Science of Self-Realization, since almost 1 year. Today, we are going to continue with our discussion from the previous session. The topic was reincarnation and beyond. So this was the topic we have discussed, and we are going to discuss more on this topic today as a sequel. So all these discussions is by the grace, by the mercy of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who has so wonderfully given us the Vedic teachings, the Vedic truths, in a way that we can understand and appreciate. Otherwise, understanding Vedic knowledge is not easy. So we owe great gratitude towards Prabhupada for his wonderful contribution, for us to show us the path of light, path of liberation. So this particular discussion we are having is an interview between Mike Robinson, who is from the London Broadcasting Company. He is inquiring from Srila Prabhupada about the science of the soul, how we have come here and what happens to us after death. So Prabhupada is giving us the insights from the Vedic knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and very wonderful, simple answers Prabhupada is giving. So this is the recorded conversation which happened in August of 1976 at Bhaktivedanta Manor, London. We'll just have a short, quick recap of what all we discussed in the previous session. So first thing we discussed was about the question which the interviewer asked. What is the philosophy of Krishna consciousness? So Prabhupada says, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness differentiates between what is spirit, what is matter. What is the difference between a living body and a dead body? Because mostly people think that I'm going to live forever. But when you understand the difference between the dead body and the living body, then you understand, oh, I'm not this body actually. So Prabhupada says, the living, we in the Krishna conscious movement philosophy, we speak about the spirit soul within the body. And to understand this requires our voluntary involvement, or voluntary involvement to know the things. Prabhupada says, you can understand this whole philosophy within a moment, provided you are ready to understand. Prabhupada gives a wonderful example of how we are all growing from our childhood. We are born as a baby and then we are growing up. The body is changing, but we, the person, the occupier of the body, is remaining the same. This is what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita as transmigration of the soul. So, with this, Prabhupada explained to us the concept of transmigration. The next question was about what is death and what happens after death. This is the question which the interviewer asked. So, for which Prabhupada explained and gave the quotations from Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said, Krishna says, For the soul, there is no birth, no death, na jayate, na mriyate. He is unborn, he is eternal, he is ever existing. Right? So this is the situation of us as living entity. So then what is this death actually? Death means you are leaving this body and taking one more body. It's like Prabhupada gave the example of changing your shirt and coat. Today you are wearing a white shirt, tomorrow you may wear some other color shirt. Right? So this was the question which the interviewer asked about death, and Prabhupada gave a wonderful answer. Actually, what happens after death? You'll get one more body. So based on this, the interviewer asked, is everybody's soul going to be with God when they die? Prabhupada says, yes, if you are qualified, you'll go back to Godhead. You'll go back to home. It's going back to God. If he's not qualifying, then he has to take another material body out of 84 lakh different bodily forms. So, according to the living entity's desire and his karma, the laws of nature give him a different body. Bhagavad says, Karmana daiva netrena jantu dehopavate. So according to the desire and the work of the living entity, based on a superior arrangement, a living entity gets a different body. So this was a little very difficult for the interviewer to understand. So Prabhupada explained the example. When you contract a disease, contagious disease, then what happens? You will be infected with the disease eventually. This is how the laws of nature are working on us. Very strictly they are working on us. They are all under the strict laws of nature. Whether you believe or don't believe, it's a different matter. But laws of nature are enforced upon all of us. So like this, Prabhupada has told about how strict the laws of nature are. Whether sometimes people think, oh, I don't see any laws working for me. I don't know whether laws are working or laws are actually, I'm going to get affected by the law. So Prabhupada says, whether you know or doesn't know, just like the government laws are always working on all the citizens. Likewise, the laws of nature as governed by Krishna is working on everybody, and it is closely monitoring each of us. This Prabhupada explains, this is how the whole science of the different aspects working in the nature is explained in Bhagavad Gita. So in that way, Prabhupada gave a wonderful insight about what is explained in the Vedic literatures to this interviewer. And the interviewer specifically asked a question, what does it mean being a Hare Krishna person? Means like a person somebody is practicing or becoming or following the Hare Krishna practices. What does it mean? Prabhupada says, actually, this Hare Krishna philosophy is a very serious education. Prabhupada is presenting it as an education, not as some sentiment or some belief. No, it is an education. And Prabhupada says that this education is important for every one of us. Because all of us are having this material body right now. And we are going through the changes as enforced upon by us by the laws of nature. So Prabhupada says, the real education of a person begins when you start following the Hare Krishna philosophy. Now, first and foremost thing is that you understand that you are spirit soul. And because you are spirit soul, the body which you have right now got is changing continuously. When the spirit soul leaves the body is dead. It will not grow. So this is the ABC of spiritual understanding, right? So when this body is no more, when your soul is no more living in this body, it takes one more body, right? So in that way, Prabhupada explained how the Hare Krishna person means he is having a spiritual perspective, spiritual understanding. Now let's move forward with the next discussions which Prabhupada had with the interviewer. So the interviewer, Mike Robinson, says, I am beginning to understand, but what I am finding difficult is how this ties in the large number of your people, we see handing out Hare Krishna literature on Oxford Street. Oxford Street is a specific place in London, busy place, marketplace, where the devotees of Hare Krishna are distributing some books of Prabhupada, Vedic literatures like Bhagavad Gita, all these things they're distributing. So he's telling, how can I relate with this? Your Lord, all your disciples, your followers are all distributing some Hare Krishna literature in Oxford Street. We're talking about life and how we change bodies. How can I relate with that? So Prabhupada is saying, this literature is meant to convince people about the need for spiritual life. So this literature, what we are giving you, what we're trying to distribute, is having this wonderful knowledge. Whatever Prabhupada has spoke just now, what happens after death, what is spirit soul, how we are entangled here, how the laws of nature are working. This is all something very important for all of us to know. So Prabhupada is telling that these literatures, what we are distributing, is actually going to convince people about the need for spiritual life. Right now, people think there is no requirement of spiritual understanding. There is no need for spiritual way of life. They're all the material conception of life. Material conception of life means I am busy with 4 things. Not only I am busy, everybody in the world is busy. And everything in the world is only happening for these 4 things. What are they? The Vedic scriptures say, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithun. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. It's a very important perspective you should know. Because if you analyze any aspect of our life right now, anybody's life, we're only busy with these 4 things. Right? And the whole life goes on with these 4 things, trying to improve the standards of these 4 things. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So this is called material conception of life. This is how the animals also are living their life. See, if we are also only busy with these 4 things and not concerned about what happens to us after death, and we are not prepared for this, then we are no better than animals. Ahara nidra bhaya maithunam cha samanya metat pashubir naranam. The scriptures say, if you are not having the developed understanding that my life is not simply to become busy with these 4 activities, rather I have to be inquiring about who am I, why am I here, what happens to me after death. I don't want to die, but death is enforced upon me. Such questions are called inquiries about spiritual understanding, Brahman understanding. So Prabhupada is telling these literatures are meant to convince people about the need for spiritual life. That's why we are distributing this literature. Somehow people should become aware of these aspects. Otherwise, they will spoil their life, or they will simply spend their life like any other living entity. So the question of the interviewer is, and you are really not concerned whether or not they join the Hare Krishna movement? Because for him, the interviewer is thinking, doesn't matter for you that they come and join you or they become serious followers. Prabhupada says, it doesn't matter. Our mission is to educate them. People are in ignorance. They're living in a fool's paradise, thinking that when their body is finished, everything's finished. This is foolishness. Just see how nicely Prabhupada is presenting the need for this important understanding, spiritual understanding. Prabhupada is telling that our mission is to educate people. In fact, when Prabhupada established the Iskcon movement in the year 1966, in the month of July in New York, he very nicely mentioned or charted the purpose of Iskcon. The very first purpose, Prabhupada said, to systematically educate the mass of people in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam to check the imbalance of values of life in the modern society. Just see, because people have different value systems right now. From the Vedic perspective, from Bhagavad Gita's perspective, as Prabhupada says, they're all ignorant. And they're all living in fool's paradise. For them, ignorance is bliss. It's like, the example of the goat is given, which is about to be slaughtered. The goat is very happy munching the green grass. It doesn't know next moment it will be pulled inside and it will be slaughtered. Likewise, our life also is so, vulnerable. What happens next moment, we don't know. Oh, he was, yesterday he spoke to me, this person, my friend, but now he's no more. Same thing can happen to you also any moment. So becoming aware that, I have to prepare for my future life and move forward in my journey of life is something known as human understanding. So whereas the foolish understanding what is going on right now is, after I die, everything is finished. How everything will be finished? That is called foolishness. This is the type of philosophy which people are advocating and trying to maximize the type of gratifying their senses. Oh, let me enjoy. After death, nothing is there and everything is over. Everything is not over. Life is a journey. Your life will continue. You'll get one more body based on your activities and different, desires. So if you want to have a better life, just like why does a child goes to a school? Why do you send children to school? For having a better future. If you don't send them to school, what happens? They'll not have proper education. They'll not have proper living. Likewise, if you don't prepare ourselves for our future life, that's what Lord Krishna and Bhagavad Gita is telling. We are all spirit souls. We belong to spiritual world. We can go back to spiritual world provided we prepare for that in this present life. So having a fool's understanding that life is finished after this body is finished is a very, very ignorant way of life. Avidya it is called. Prabhupada says that's the reason we are trying to distribute the literature and educate people about this. And you are basically just concerned to tell them that there is spiritual dimension of life. This is the question. This is the one more confirmation which the interviewer Mike Robinson is taking from Prabhupada. So Prabhupada says, our first concern is to tell you that you are not this body. This body is your covering, your shirt and coat. And within the body, you are living. This is exactly what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Vasamsi jiranani yatha vihaya. Which means it's like we change our dress. Similarly, our body is a dress which keeps changing. But I, as spirit soul, do not change. We are eternally existing. We don't die. We are not born. We are unborn. Right? So this is the basic education, basic understanding we're supposed to have. So the first and foremost understanding is that to tell everybody that we are not the body, we are spirit soul. Everybody is going under the false impression, false understanding that I am this body and they are completely in a different paradigm, working in a different paradigm. It's like a wrong paradigm we are working. When you know that you are not the body, then you will no more struggle to maintain, or struggle to work for the body. Rather, you will work for the soul. Right? That is the understanding. So this interviewer is further, giving his thinking. Yes, I think I got that now. If we could go on from there, you said that you made a difference in your life after death, that there are natural laws that determine your next life. How does the process of transmigration work? If you remember, Prabhupada had mentioned about transmigration of the soul. The body, once this leaves this body and goes to a new body, totally a different body. That is called transmigration of the soul. Soul is transmigrating to different body. Soul is same soul, but it's getting a different body. So Prabhupada explains the whole process in a very nice way. First thing Prabhupada says, the process is very subtle. You cannot grossly see. Subtle means very fine, very delicate. You cannot see with our gross senses. The spirit soul is invisible to our material eyes. It is atomic in size. See, if I say, where is your mind? Where is your intelligence? You cannot see. They are called subtle senses. And spirit soul is much finer, much subtler. So spirit soul is not visible to our eyes. It's very minute. Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita. The spirit soul is it is invisible to our material eyes, but from the understanding of scriptures, we can know that the spirit soul's existence. So after the destruction of the gross body, what happens is that this body is made up of what? Made up of senses, blood, fat, bone, stool, urine, etc., etc. Subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego goes on working. Very wonderful revelation Prabhupada is giving. That even though this body stops functioning, or what we call death, doctors declare dead, body is dead. But we have a subtle body. Subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and ego, along with the soul. So this body goes on working. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that based on the mentality you have at the time of death, you get one more transmigration all about. Transmigration means you, along with the subtle body means the mind, intelligence, ego, mind, intelligence, ego, impressions, and all the various experiences of your so many past lives, you are carrying it forward to next life. And the most prominent experience, most prominent thought process you are having at the time of death, that thought process you will get definitely, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyatyante kalevaram. Whatever smaran, whatever thinking you have at the time of death, that type of thinking, the type of body of that thinking you will get next life. Somebody is thinking of his pet dog. Next life he can become a dog. Or somebody is very much attached to birds. Next life he can become a bird. Like that. So based on the mentality, prominent mentality you have at the time of death, your subtle body carries you to the next body. Very nicely Prabhupada explains further. So at the time of death, the subtle body carries a small spirit soul to another gross body. Right? This is called transmigration of the soul. The process is just like air carrying a fragrance. This example is given in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is giving this example. It's like the air is carrying fragrance. But fragrance you cannot see. Air also you cannot see. But air, when the fragrant air passes through you, oh, so nice, wonderful fragrance. Nobody can see where this rose fragrance is coming from. But we know that it is being carried by the air. Right? So, you cannot see how it is, but it is being done. Similarly, the process of transmigration of the soul is very subtle. Subtle means you cannot experience by your gross senses. Now you have to understand through scriptural understanding, scriptural knowledge. So the process of transmigration of the soul is very subtle. It is happening. So the whole process Prabhupada explains further. According to the condition of the mind at the time of death, the minute spirit soul enters into the womb of a particular mother to the semen of a father, and then the soul develops a particular type of body given by the mother. This is what happens. As I told you, if your mentality is predominantly of your pet dog, time of death, you're thinking of your God and you leave the body. What happens? You will your spirit soul with the subtle body will be entering into the male dog reproductive system. And the male dog, when he is having sexual intercourse with the female dog, then the semen of that male dog enters into the womb of the female dog, and there you develop the body of a dog. You get the body of a dog. So the mother, based on the seed given by the father, the mother develops the body. That's the point. So this is what is going to happen. This is all described in Bhagavad Gita very nicely, Bhagavatam very nicely. So it may be a human being, it may be a cat, a dog, or anything. And based on the mentality, as Prabhupada says, at the time of death, whatever condition of mind you have, that type of body you're going to develop. So this interview is becoming more and more inquisitive. Are you saying that we were something else before this life? Prabhupada says, yes, we were something before this life, not necessarily humans. And we keep coming back as something else next time. So Prabhupada says, yes, because we are eternal. We keep taking bodies again and again. According to our work, we are simply changing bodies. You see the wonderful phenomena happening with our own life. Right? We have to, we have to realize this. But we are so engrossed in our present situation. We think this present body, this present family, this present situation of my business, everything is everything. Nothing beyond this. In complete ignorance. It's just limited to our, family, family connections, this particular, friend circle. That's all life means. Is not my life is not life. It's just a situational or circumstantial to your existence now. You had a similar situation in your previous life, somebody else, something else in some other situation. And if you go on like this, you'll have one more situation next life. So we have to awaken to our spiritual existence, that I'm actually not this. I'm not this body. I'm spirit soul. My real existence is in the spiritual world. As long as we don't awaken to this, we'll go on continuing our material existence or material life, taking body after body. So very nicely Prabhupada further explains. Therefore, you should want to know how to stop this business, how you can remain in your original spiritual body. Right? So we are going on changing our bodies repeatedly again and again and again and again.